it's a pretty cool thing. A lot of people don't have that. The thing is that kind of relationship can end. She honestly, not to be, this isn't a funny thing, but she could die. I mean, it's human. It's human nature that happens. It's humanity. I could lose that relationship with her. And as I began to think about these things, I began to wonder, what kind of love do we really need on this earth? Do we really need as humans? We need a kind of love that will always be there, that will always sustain us through everything. That no matter even the worst thing that can go on, we can trust a love that will always, always be there. Now this reminds me of a story about a young man who has a brother, and he grew up on a farm, and day in and day out with their dad, just the three of them. They worked the fields. They worked just to make money and to sell their goods, and day in and day out, spilling calluses on their hands, grunting, being men. You know, and this young brother, the youngest of the two, finally goes to his father and said, "Dad, I'm tired of this. Yeah, you love me. This is great. I have a place to stay and stuff to eat, but please just give me some money so I can go off and do my own thing." And so this father says, "All right, you know, do whatever you want. Do what you need to do." And so he gives him his inheritance, that inheritance that he would receive if his dad died. And he's pretty much saying, you know, "You're not dead, but I want it now. Give it to me. I'm impatient." And so he gets this inheritance from his father, and he goes off, gets on his bicycle, and he rides into town, starts having a fabulous time, starts spending money, has all this money to spend on himself. He's not putting it in the family pot. He's not working. He's just spending money, playing some poker, enjoying the fabulous things and amenities of the city and freedom, meeting women and doing these great things, having a great time with things. But what he's lacking is that community with a family. What he's lacking is that love that he had with his father, because he's not around it anymore. He has stepped out of that umbrella, of that coverage. And as he stepped out of that, he began to do things on his own. He began to make his own decisions, and which led him to the painful situation, and then an argument, and then a physical fight, and then trouble with the law. Pretty soon found himself spending all his money out of any form to pay for food, starving, and wondering, what am I going to do? So he goes to a person in the suburbs, and too ashamed to go back to his dad at this point, and says, "Hey, can I work for you at least? Can I help feed your animals, please, at least?" And people weren't even giving him food. People didn't have that love connection with him to help him out in that way. So he found himself lusting after the food of their pigs, of their farm animals out there. If I can't even pay for food, I have to eat somehow. At least I got to eat that mush, eat like the pig and turning into an animal. And as he realized these things, that he walked away from something that was so great, he realized, I have to go back. I can't do this anymore. I can't make these own decisions. I can't be away from my father, because he's the one who led me and helped me make the decisions that I needed to make. So he made his way back to his father's house. And he's thinking, I won't even be able to be his son anymore. I won't be able to be treated with his honor and the leadership that he gave me before him. I'm just going to have to be a servant. I'll work for him. I'll work with his whole yard crew, and we'll make the house look great, but I won't even sleep in the same place I slept before, because I have wronged and disrespected my father. And as his dad saw him walking from a distance, he ran to him. It wasn't like a, "Come on, son, been waiting for you, got some chores to do." He ran to him and he kissed him. He was so excited that his son had finally come home. Now his son was without shoes, he was dirty, he had been eating pig slop, he was not in a presentable manner, but his dad was so excited to see him. Even though it was obvious he had disrespected, he had lost the money, he had done all these things to wrong and shame their family, And his father said, "You are home. You are home." Puts a jacket on him, puts sandals on him, gives him a position of authority again, welcomes him into the home, and throws a party for him because his son had returned. Now Jesus is telling this story. That's a little different form that he uses, but Jesus tells a story in the book of Luke in the Bible. And Jesus is telling the story because it's a representation of our relationship with God. And we represent that son. He's called the prodigal son, who leaves the home, he leaves the coverage of the father to do his own thing, to experience his own stuff, to find love in different areas. But then finally he realizes, I am desperate for the Father. I'm desperate for that. So he comes home, and the Father represents God and his love for us, saying that no matter what we do, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of decisions we make, the regrets that we build up over this lifetime, and the arguments that we get into, and everything that happens doesn't matter, because God's love is always there, like that Father's love was waiting there for his Son. And what is the significance of this? Jesus is telling us about this. Now, who is Jesus? He claims to be the Son of God. I believe he was the Son of God, and later when he rose from the dead, proving that is what he was, people saw him afterwards, after he raised from the dead. But Jesus came to the earth as the Son, to bridge the gap between us and God. Because we were originally created to be in community with our Creator, in community with God. But our sin, our own desire to do our own ways, put distance in between us and him. And so Jesus came to the earth to say, look, you can have forgiveness in me. You can have true love in me. And he died on the cross to forgive us of our sins. Now, what's the significance of that? I'll tell you real quick. In the Old Testament times, people used to have to sacrifice a lamb to receive forgiveness. They would do something wrong. They wouldn't be able to be that close to God, but they would receive forgiveness. To receive that, they would sacrifice an animal, their best lamb that they had. And Jesus came to the earth and died on the cross to be that final sacrifice. So you don't see people doing that anymore. It'd be animal cruelty. We don't need to, because Jesus died, and we can just say, Jesus, forgive me of my sins. I want to experience the love of the Father. And so, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced or ever thought about that before. The love of the Father, that no matter what we do, he will always be there for us. That we as humans, in this humanity, in these bodies, we desire love. We desire that community. And that can happen fully, completely, even through death, with a relationship with God. He will always be there for us, always love us. So I want to invite you today. I'm going to read one verse. I'm going to invite you to experience a mystical love relationship with the Lord, with God, our Creator. Psalm 107, it's a book in the Bible. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He led them by a straight way to a city where they could settle. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for men. For he satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry